Before you can actually start building your website with Fresh Store Builder, you need to know exactly what it is you're going to be building and targeting on this website. This actually involves kind of a multi-step process where you need to select a niche and possibly a small selection of products that you might be targeting. You also need to choose some keywords that you're going to target so you can plan out the different pages of your website that you're going to build. You need to have at least a vague idea of what products you're going to be targeting on the website. And finally, once you have all that information figured out, you can really decide on a domain name to go with for your site. Now, you can really do this process in different orders depending on what kind of idea you might have to begin with as far as finding a new niche goes. For example, if you have some kind of an idea of a keyword, you could go straight to Google and start doing Google research and keyword research. If you needed to get an idea of an actual niche, you can simply go onto Amazon and browse around for a little while. Now you can really be looking for a wide variety of different things. I really recommend to build more than one Amazon affiliate website. That way, you can target a bit of a variety. This could include different kinds of seasonal niches. It could also include a variety of product prices. Going for lower priced products, you'll likely sell more of them, but you're going to earn a lower commission per sale. And with a higher priced product, you'll earn much more per sale, but likely refer less sales. Some people only stick to the high priced products. However, I really like to do a bit of a combination on any given website, if at all possible. Or I will sometimes build some websites that target high-priced products and others that might exclusively target cheaper products. The reason why is because cheaper products can help to raise your monthly sales volume, and this can give you a higher commission rate overall that then applies to those more expensive products. So by diversifying yourself, you're really winning from a number of different angles here. So if you're not quite sure what to pick, as I mentioned before, just go browsing through Amazon. Choose a department over here. Drill down even further and choose a sub-niche, especially something maybe that you have a little bit of knowledge about or maybe have some kind of an interest in. Eventually, you'll get to the point, though, where you've built enough websites and you've targeted all of the things that you're already familiar with, and you need to start branching out. And so eventually, you will need to go to Amazon and try to find your own niches. And so that's where browsing around comes into play. Now, some people will, again, go after things like bestsellers. thinking, okay, a lot of them are selling on Amazon, then I should be able to refer a lot of sales on them. And while sometimes that can be the case, if you are centering an entire website around a bestseller, chances are the competition on that is going to be really high. So sometimes I like to go a little off the beaten path to try to find a niche that will still be popular, but maybe it's not going to be quite as popular with Amazon itself and with affiliate marketers. That way I have less competition to deal with, but I can still get good results from it. So when you want to find something off the beaten path, you want to avoid the stuff like the best sellers. And you even want to avoid some of the things that blatantly stand out at you when you're browsing through Amazon. I've gone to the kitchen and dining page here on Amazon to give you some examples of what I'm talking about. They have things like best-selling products down below, where you could easily identify a niche based off of any one of these products. For example, number one here, this is advanced water filter replacements. These are actually the filters for the water filter, and you have to continually replace them, and it's a popular seller, obviously, because people need more of them to continue using that product. Well, that's all fine and well, but to build a website and to try to target some of these related keyword phrases, you would likely find yourself up against an immense amount of competition. So I will often drill down even more from this subcategory into subcategories if need be. I could go into bakeware here. Going into bakeware gives me yet another layout just like I saw over in kitchen and dining. And I have even more breakdowns of this one niche being split up into a bunch of different sub-niches. And chances are you can even continue on into many of these and find even more sub-niches there. So continue drilling through stuff. Take a look at different types of products that they might be talking about. Some of these can be niches in themselves, as long as you find a special way to go about targeting them, because as they're listed here, they're a little on the general side, and you still might have a lot of competition. Something else that you can do, though, is to look at a brand page to see what different kinds of products they are actually creating. And sometimes you can then take these ideas and go over to Google to try to expand on them a little more, to maybe find some niches that are not heavily advertised on Amazon, but they still might be popular niches. And so these would be some that a lot of other Amazon affiliate marketers are not going to be targeting. So as an example here, we have silicone molds. One of the types of products that this Wilton brand is actually creating. Well, I could go to Google and search for silicone molds and see what types of websites are out there, see what kind of things they might be covering. But you really get a limited picture with just doing a Google search. So I really like to use the keyword planner. If you've never used this before, and even if you're not sure where to find it, if you just go to Google and type in keyword planner, you'll get straight to it. It's actually a Google AdWords product. And you will need a Google AdWords account to be able to access the keyword planner. However, you do not have to actually provide billing information or anything of that nature. So with that said, when you get to the keyword planner page here, click on this search for new keyword and add group ideas tab. And in this top box, you can type in phrases essentially straight off of Amazon to help you expand with more ideas. Now you have the add group ideas, which is going to kind of group things up into general types of keyword phrases. And then you also have the keyword ideas tab, which lists individual keyword phrases, but they're really just kind of random as far as what's showing up where. The Add Group Ideas page, personally, I like this when I'm looking for a niche because it helps me to summarize keyword phrases at a quick glance. I can easily see that these silicone molds are used for a wide variety of things. Soap, baking molds, molded rubber, silicone cake. Obviously, this would be baking again. You have things like silicone candle molds, chocolate molds, fondant. The list really goes on and on. So I can see that not only is this kind of product popular because you have a lot of searches showing up for it, and even if you drill down into one of these, you still get to see the actual searches for individual phrases. For example, I could click on silicone cupcake here, and I can see that silicone cupcake molds has 720 monthly searches. So there are definitely a lot of people interested in these types of products. So with that said, almost anything that I see here could potentially be a niche that I could target. However, everything does require a little more investigation before you actually make a final decision on exactly what niche you want to go for. When you're looking at the individual keyword phrases in this keyword planner, there are a few things to take note of. Number one, you have the average monthly searches. These numbers, in a way, can sometimes give you a general indication of search competition. Simply because your higher traffic phrases will always attract more interest from marketers than your lower traffic phrases. So generally, anytime you see phrases that have multi-thousands of monthly searches on them, you might not want to target that as your niche for your website or as your primary keyword phrase for your website, to the point where everything else on your website relates to this one individual phrase. So with that said, most of the time, you will want to go for phrases that have under 1,000 monthly searches. But you still need traffic there to be able to have a profitable website. So you generally want to avoid the really low numbers, like 100 or 200. I like to shoot for 480 as a minimum number. And then a lot of times the 1,000 will be an upper limit, unless I can find good evidence that there might be lower than normal search competition for one of those higher traffic phrases. And I'll show you how that works here in just a few minutes. A couple of other things that I want to point out here before I show you how to actually determine search competition. One of these things involves this little icon right here that is sitting next to all of the search counts. If you hover over one of these icons, you will see that you get a different picture every time you change icons. Well, these pictures are actually graphs. And the graphs represent traffic on that keyword phrase. I found a really great example here that I can use for you. The average monthly search count, right here, this number is the traffic from the last 12 months on Google for that keyword phrase. But then they divide that number by 12 to get that average for an individual month. However, the actual traffic amount from one month to the next can vary. You can have things like a seasonal niche. Think about something like a swimming pool. Search traffic for swimming pools and pretty much anything relating to them is going to be higher during the warm months of the year. And it's going to be lower during the cold months of the year. So during June and July, at least in the USA and in this hemisphere, you would have a lot of traffic for those related keyword phrases. However, your average monthly count here does not give you any indication as to what kind of fluctuations there may be from one month to the next. So that is what this little icon is for. When you hover over an icon and then you hover over one of these bars, it will tell you for a specific month and a specific year the search count for that time period. So you can use this to find seasonal tendencies in a niche and in a keyword phrase. And you can also use it to find trending keyword phrases. Things that might be trending either up or down. Because you have new keyword phrases that come along as new things are created. Especially when it is a new type of thing. Then you get a whole bunch of new keywords created. But even if you just have the release of a brand new type of product, you still get new keywords created for something like that. Well, this keyword right here, lamb cake mold, is a great example of what I'm talking about. The average monthly count is 880, But if I hover over this graph, I see that there is a major difference from one month to the next. If I hover over May of 2014, I see 320 searches. That's a lot lower than 880. But if I go to the other end of the spectrum, in March and in April of 2015, there was 3,600 searches on this keyword phrase, lamb cake mold. What that tells me is this might be a fairly new keyword phrase. Something might have happened right here at the end of February, the beginning of March, that caused this keyword phrase to all of a sudden become popular. I can investigate that and find out more and see whether it would be worthwhile to try to pursue that. But here's the really interesting thing. Remember earlier I said that keyword phrases that have over a 1,000 count might have much higher competition? These trending phrases can be an exception to that rule, for the simple fact that people using automated software and people sorting keyword phrases by count numbers, something like this, when they're looking at a large list, they're going to be more focused on the ones up at the top. People are going to be more focused on the higher numbers, thinking, I want those because they're going to bring me more traffic. Well, the ones below 1,000, they get overlooked, not by everybody, but by more people than the ones that are focusing on the ones above. So, I have a phrase here with 880, but when I hover over the graph here, my recent months are 3,600. So this is almost a hidden gem because it's still under the radar with the average count. But in reality, right now, there's a lot of traffic for it. So I could possibly swoop in and build a website surrounding that keyword phrase. I need to make sure, though, that the keyword phrase that I'm going to use can actually support an entire website. Sometimes there's just not enough information about a keyword phrase, and that keyword phrase might be better off being a single page on a website for a slightly more general niche. Now, something that you can do once you get to this point in the process, when you have an idea of a potential niche, you need to make sure you have Amazon products that you can promote, obviously. But then you also need to make sure that your search competition isn't too high for it. So I want to show you the search competition, how you can briefly check to at least get a general idea of whether it's a possibility to target it or not. Before I jump over to Google, though, you might have noticed this competition column. This column here, even though you might be inclined to think that this relates to search engine competition, it actually doesn't. This is advertising competition. Remember, this is Google AdWords, and you had to sign up for a Google AdWords account to be able to use this keyword planner. Well, this is designed for people that are going to be paying a cost per click for ads on Google, the little sidebar ads that they have. So this is the competition among those advertisers. And this is the bid amount that they would suggest for you to try to get on that keyword phrase. So ultimately, this has no relevance to you because you want to go after the free traffic from Google and not their paid traffic. So I want to go over here to Google and use the actual search engine as a gauge for that competition. So I'm going to check out this lamb cake mold keyword phrase here, just out of curiosity, so we can see what exactly this is. Now, this actually looks like it would be a really great niche to go after. And had it not been for the fact that I have already pre-selected my niche before I started this training video, I'd actually go for this one, as long as the competition looked low enough and as long as I had actual products on Amazon that I could promote. Now, how do you find what that competition really is? I like to use 3 things as a gauge. Number 1, you have the search itself. What I'm really looking at is what is ranking here in the top 10. Does it look like some kind of informational page might be existing to the point where I could come in and overtake them? I don't mind seeing things like Amazon ranking in the top 10. I've overtaken Amazon on keyword phrases like this plenty of times before. So that's not a big deal. But what I do want to avoid seeing is every single one of the top 10 listings being nothing but these major authority e-commerce websites like Amazon and eBay and Etsy and all these other smaller e-commerce sites as well. That makes it a little more difficult. That tells you that Google is heavily focused on that being a product and buying keyword phrase. So if you're wanting to bring information into the mix, you might not fare as well there. But a keyword phrase like this, where you're seeing a nice mixture of results. You're seeing some e-commerce, you're seeing some images, here's a blog, here's some recipes. I have a really nice mixture of everything here. I could pop into the top 10 of this one, most likely without much of an issue. Now, I can investigate this a little bit more to try to reaffirm that. Number 1, I want to look at the number of results that I have for this search. This tells me I have 122,000 results. That's actually not that bad. I've been able to rank for phrases with millions of results. So seeing only 122,000 tells me that ultimately there are not a lot of other pages out there on the website, out there on the internet that have websites centered around this particular niche, or even pages that are talking about this particular keyword phrase, or else they'd be showing up here in the Google results. Now, to take this a step farther, I want to add double quote marks around my keyword phrase up here in the Google search bar. And I want to search again. Now, the main thing I'm looking for here is the number of results that I have. Once again, this number should be dropping pretty significantly compared to our previous number. Mine dropped by about 80%. So I've only got about 24,000 results remaining. Now the other thing that I'm curious to see is down below my results that are showing up. Is there a major difference here between what I see now and what I saw before? If there is, then that tells me Google might have some other factor or some other relational word or keyword phrase that it considers to be more important than this exact phrase right here. So if I'm trying to target this phrase and the results are drastically different, then I might have problems ranking in the top 10 for the phrase without the quotes. Now to go even farther than that, I'm going to add in the phrase all in title without any spaces. It's all together here. ALLINTITLE. And then a semicolon. Doing this search here is going to once again drastically drop the number of results that I am seeing. But this should be much more significant of a drop than we saw before. Ultimately, when I'm doing this all-in title search, if I see less than 1,000 results, I have a fairly low competition keyword phrase on my hands, especially if some of the results that I'm seeing here once again seem to match up to what I had to start with. This one in particular, I recall, was ranking in the top 10 for the first one. And not only that, but it's a fairly recent page too. Now you don't have to see the recent pages, but seeing some of the similar pages here is a great indication. That tells me I could build a page on my site with this phrase in my title, and as long as I put a decent amount of informative, unique content on that page, I'm probably going to rank on Google for it. The number of results here tells me that there's simply not a lot of other pages on the internet going after this phrase right now. This all-in title search that I did is looking up the number of actual pages on the internet that Google has indexed that have that exact phrase, not just in the page. In the page was my first search with just the quotes around it. The all-in title is when it is just in the title of the page. So every single one of these down here, you'll see lamb cake mold, lamb cake mold, lamb cake mold. When you're building a page on your own website and you're trying to target a keyword phrase, you usually use that exact keyword phrase in your title somewhere. So this is sometimes an indication of how many marketers are going after a keyword phrase, because they obviously identify the importance of it. And so they have a page on their site that is using that phrase and trying to target it. Either that or that phrase occurs very naturally in the language. So if you've gotten to this point and you found a keyword phrase, it has low competition and yet seems to have a decent amount of Google traffic still, and you have Amazon products that relate to it. You might have a winner on your hands that you can proceed with. Now, the phrase I'm actually going to be building throughout the course of this training series is on this same page here. It's actually cake pop molds. Cake pop molds is actually fairly similar. If I do an all-in-title search for cake pop molds, you'll see that I have 970 results for this keyword phrase. So this also is a phrase with fairly low search competition. However, it has pretty nice search traffic. And I obviously know that there are going to be Amazon products relating to what I want to go after. And I can even go back over to Amazon just to double check. And I can easily see there are plenty of products that are specifically called what my keyword phrase is going after. Now, as you can see with these product prices here, these are definitely cheaper products. But as I was telling you before, sometimes you'll want to go for some cheaper products, and other times you'll want to go for some expensive products. Build up your monthly sales volume with the cheaper products, and that'll help to maximize your commissions on the more expensive products. Plus, sometimes you can find an expensive product to toss into a website, like something that would be using these really cheap products. For example, I might be able to put some kind of a cake batter mixer. Those things are often a couple $100s, and that could easily fit in with what my website is about. And while I might not have a lot of sales on it, I should get some sales on it and more frequent sales on my cheaper products as I go along. So once I have decided on a niche, I have a pretty good indication the competition's low. I know there's search traffic for it, and I know there are Amazon products for it. The next thing I need to do before I make an absolute final decision to go for this niche is to expand on my keyword research just a little bit to ensure that I have enough topics that I can actually talk about on my website, to the point where I can build an entire website around this one niche and this one keyword phrase. So I'm going to take my keyword phrase here, cake pop molds, and I'm going to search it in the keyword planner. Now I can use the ad group ideas here, just like I was doing before, to kind of get an idea of different kinds of keyword phrases that relate to this main phrase that I have searched for. This can sometimes help me to get an idea of how many different topics might relate to this phrase. So as I look through this, pretty much any one of these could potentially be a relational keyword phrase to my main niche. So what I will do is take out a notepad file. And as I go through my keywords here, I'll simply copy and paste some of these keyword phrases from this listing over to my notepad file. This way, after I've gone through some of the phrases, I can get a better idea of whether or not this is actually going to work out to create a complete website. So as an example, I see that I have phrases that are relating to molds. I have phrases relating to recipes, pans, makers, decorating, supplies, sticks. Any one of these might be a good page for me. So I can take something like Cake Pops recipe and I can add it onto my notepad file. And then I could take something like Cake Pop decorating and add it into my notepad file. Now, sometimes it really doesn't matter what the search traffic or the search competition will be like for these additional keyword phrases. For example, Cake Pop decorating has 720. That's actually not too bad. But let's say I ended up building a page called Cake Pop decorating tips, and it was only 110. Or maybe Cake Pop decorating has high traffic or a high competition on it. These would not necessarily be bad things because it's not my primary goal to get a search ranking on these phrases. What I'm really doing here is more brainstorming for ideas of different pages I could create on my website. And as a byproduct of that, I will end up getting some search rankings on some of these additional phrases. But ultimately, they all help me to reinforce my primary topic of my website because all the phrases relate to it. Well, what I want to do is continue on through the ad group ideas, and I can even go over to the keyword ideas and browse through straight listings of these phrases to try to come up with a final listing of different phrases that I could use for topics on my site. Now, you have informational phrases like the ones that I've pulled up here, at least most of them. And then you also have phrases that you could try to go after that relate to specific products. For example, this product here, lollipop sticks, 100 count, 6-inch. These are the pops, the sticks that actually go inside of the cake pops. Well, there might actually be some kind of traffic relating to this product here. What I can do is copy a keyword phrase, which is actually the entire product name off of Amazon, and paste it into the Google Keyword Planner. Now, if you notice right here, there is a small amount of search traffic for this exact phrase, just like it is existing on Amazon. But then there might be other relational phrases to it. This particular phrase that I'm using, it's actually not using the brand name. Sometimes if you tack on the brand name to your product, you might end up seeing completely different results. Now, I don't see any search traffic for that exact phrase here, but down below, I can definitely see that there is some traffic for Wilton related phrases. So I might want to go and try to search that brand instead. I can actually see that there's an immense amount of traffic for it and all kinds of relating products to them. Well, the point here is that some of these products that are on Amazon might be good candidates to try to get search traffic for and to try to rank for keyword phrases on. But you have to consider exactly who is going to be going after which keyword phrases. Let me explain what I mean there. In Fresh Store Builder, and also in pretty much any other Amazon software out there, you get product information directly from Amazon. And this would be stuff like your product title. And people actually will have pages on their website that are titled by this exact phrase. If you take pretty much any product off of Amazon, if it's been there for a little while for that matter, and you search for that exact phrase, you're going to find that there are Google results for that phrase. However, if you sit here and drill down through the search results a little ways, you might notice that it comes to an end. Look where mine came to an end. 38. It displayed 38 results. I'm only on page 4 right here. Do you remember what it was saying up there when I was back on the first page? About 1,210 results. So why is Google only showing me 38? The real answer to that question really lies in the text that is at the bottom. In order to show you the most relevant results, we have omitted some entries very similar to the 38 already displayed. If you like, you can repeat the search with the omitted results included. Well, if I flip back here to the first page of these results, you'll see that the number one ranked item here is actually that Amazon page that I was just at. So why would Google have 1,200 results but only show me 38? And it's because there are other pages that are considered not unique enough to be shown in those results. Well, consider how those pages are getting there is from automated software a lot of times. So Google tosses those pages out of the results. Well, this should be really important to you as an Amazon affiliate using site building software that is going to be replicating the Amazon product information. Change your product title, the page of that product that's actually on your website. Change the title of that page, but still make it relate to what the product actually is. For example, I could call it Wilton Lollipop Sticks. I wouldn't have to get into specifics about the count or the size, perhaps. And even then, sometimes changing something like your title like that can actually end up giving you access to better search traffic. That phrase, Wilton Lollipop Sticks, actually gets 140 searches a month. So while I wouldn't want this to be the primary subject of an entire website, if this is just one product page on my site about a more general subject, then 140 monthly searches for that phrase for just that one page is not too bad, especially considering there could easily be many other keyword phrases that I might possibly rank for on that one page. So in addition to customizing, but still keeping your page title relevant, you also are later going to want to customize the actual information that this software pulls in from Amazon and puts on your website to get the best results on Google. I wanted to be sure to point this out to you early on now so you're actually aware of the reasons why you need to be doing this. So you don't necessarily have to figure out all of the products that you're going to be promoting right now, but you might want to at least get a general idea and possibly follow some of those products. Try to come up with a more relevant, unique title that you could apply to them, something that might also get you better search traffic. And use this information as a guide later on when you're actually building your website. At the very, very least, though, go through Google Keyword Planner and try to plan out 10 to 15 or so different pages of content that you could write on your website relating to what your main keyword phrase is. And then many of these additional ones will also be keyword phrases as a result. When you have reached this point in the process, you can refine your site planning even more by taking your keyword phrases and organizing them into basically a few different relational categories. For example, I put a few under just general cake pop type of information. Others are informational phrases about the cake pop molds. Others are phrases relating to special occasions and cake pops. I omitted the cake pop generalization from each of these keyword phrases down here, by the way. And then I also have some that relate to product pages that I might end up creating. So you can see how I take my keyword phrases and transition it into a plan for my website. This is a category, and this is a category, and this is a category. And then I have subpages underneath each of these categories here. So then when it's time to build my site, I know exactly what I want to create. I know what articles I'm going to need to write for the various pages on my site. So if you're not even going to be the one writing your own material, maybe you're going to plan your website and put it all together, but you want to hire somebody else to actually do the writing maybe. This is how you plan out something, and you can give somebody a list of topics that they can actually target and write content for, and get it all in one fell swoop without having to do a lot of back and forth and dragging things out. So try to select a niche for your own website, get a general idea of the products you want to promote, do some keyword research relating to that niche and those products, and then try to get to some kind of a rough plan for the various pages of your website. And again, you want to have maybe 10 to 15 of these different pages planned out, because we are going to be adding some additional product pages onto all of these pages. These are really going to be more our informational pages, and then the automatic Amazon product pages that Fresh Store Builder will help us to create will be the additional pages of our site that are going to be more focused on getting us sales. And these are going to be more focused on getting us search traffic. So the final thing we need to do now from this point, before we can actually start building our website, is to choose a domain name that we want to use. Now, there are a lot of different tactics you can use to pick a domain name. You can do something like finding an exactmatch.com domain like I have done. I actually own the domain name cakepopmolds.com. However, this is not a necessity anymore, and I want to emphasize that. I could have easily gone for pretty much any other .com domain name. The content on your site is much more important than your domain name. Google used to give a domain like this all kinds of crazy benefits. Nowadays, it will not do that. It might give it a very minor benefit still, but ultimately your rankings are still going to be dependent upon your own content and the amount of competition that is out there among all the other websites. So with that said, if you can't find an exactmatch.com domain for the keyword phrase or the niche that you want to go after, don't worry about it. I would still recommend a .com domain. However, the beginning part can kind of be up to you. A tactic that I like to use, though, when you're not going to be doing an exact match domain, is to go for a branded domain name, but maybe even a combination of a branded and an exact match domain. For example, a branded domain name could be a completely made-up name. For example, the product brand that I was just looking at before, Wilton.com. I don't think Wilton is a real word. If it is, I'm not familiar with it. But it's a brand name, obviously, and Wilton.com would be most likely their website for their brand name. Well, you can come up with a completely new word on your own, or you can use combinations or of real words, or even complete real words. But something that makes this process a little easier. You don't have to, be all creative and come up with some amazing, fantastic domain name or brand name for this website. You can really go a little more simplified than that, and it makes all this a lot easier, and you get a little bit of a trade-off with the exact match domain, and that is to mix and match the exact match domain and a branded domain. So for example, I could make a site called RyansCakeMolds.com. I could also do something like CakeMoldTips.com. I could also do CakePopPartyMadness.com. The point here, though, is that some of my domain really doesn't have a relevancy to a keyword phrase, and the rest of it has direct relevancy to my primary keyword phrase for my site. So I have one, maybe two words from my primary keyword phrase as part of my branded domain, and then the rest of it is something else. Now, ultimately, the less number of words and the less number of characters in your domain name, the better off you will be. I can't guarantee that, but it seems to me as though Google almost gives a little more respect to a keyword phrase with, or a domain name with less words in it or with less characters in it. These shorter domain names. Obviously, a 4-letter domain name is a lot harder to come by than a 100-letter domain name. And it's a lot more user-friendly. So, in a couple of those different ways, Google can be a little more inclined to favor a shorter domain over a longer domain. So also consider that when you're actually selecting your domain name. So complete your niche selection, get your keyword research done, plan the pages of your website, have a general idea of the products you want to promote on your site, select your domain name, and then finally, you need website hosting to connect that domain name to. A lot of you will already have website hosting by the time you get to this point in the training. It's not a problem at all. If you do need website hosting, especially if you might think you will need help with some of the more technical stuff, getting software set up on your site, you may want to check out the website hosting that is actually part of Fresh Store Builder. I believe they call it Fresh Hosting. That is something that is integrated with it and makes for quick site setups. And it's also guaranteed to work, and they have their own support staff that takes care of it. And it's just ideal to run Fresh Store Builder on it if you do not already have your own hosting and websites currently running. Now in the next class, we're going to actually proceed with getting Fresh Store Builder set up on our website and getting a lot of the initial settings created and getting everything ready to go so we can actually start constructing this Amazon affiliate website.